Hey guys, it's Nasar, aka the Real Estate Doru, and I'm here back with Natalie with a popular topic that's on the internet today, right? Buying a car in your business name. Some truths to it, some misconceptions that people have, and fortunately sometimes when people hear the right information, they twist it to benefit themselves. It doesn't agree with the law. And so therefore you put yourself out and you're not getting the benefits that you thought you were getting. So it's good to talk to tax professionals. Like, I'm not even answering this question. I'm not well educated on it, so I wanted to bring a tax professional on. So recently I purchased a car. I requested a co-application, and like, hey, can I get a co? I want to be a co-applicant, and I want to put this car on my business name. And they said, well, all right, we can do it. You just need to be personal guarantee, and put all information and all that. Okay, so I was advised if I put the car in the business name that I can write off the payment. However, I can't write off the miles.
Yeah.
So I guess for each situation is different, but they would have to look at, is it better for me to get mileage or is it better for me to write off the payment? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you take it from, can you start with like putting the car in your business name, like just starting with, the process, like when you go to the dealership, whatever the case may be. You just briefly run through it and to the tax benefits of it.
Yeah, so there's this misconception, I think, and just keep this in mind because a lot of videos out there like to go for kind of bells and whistles and hype because it's exciting and it's not always totally accurate. So just because something's owned by your business doesn't always make it a business expense, right? You can't put unnecessary nonsense in there and say it's needed. You have to prove it. So even if you buy a car in your business, if you literally never drive that car for business, like if you own a construction company and you bought a 2-seater Miata and you say you had to use it for the job, you'd probably not. Or you have to prove how you did, right? Show me that fancy car impressed someone and got you a contract. Show me the way it was a business asset. But just putting something in your business doesn't by default make it fully deductible. So that's kind of the first part. If it is going to be a business asset, it has to be owned by the business. Is kind of the cleanest way to do it for that. If it is actually a business asset, like you are buying a truck for a construction company or you're an agent and having a nice car is part of your job because you have to drive people around in it, show people houses, then potentially. But if you are also using that car for personal use, it can reduce your amount of write-off, essentially. There's still a split between your business and personal use, even if the business owns it. A lot of people, I think, kind of slide by on this and say, oh, it's in the business, I'll just say I only use it for that. But if you literally don't have another car and you're ever audited, they'll probably, dock some of your write-off. So that's kind of what it comes down to, is even if it's owned by the business, you still have to look at if it's being driven personally as well, or if you have an additional vehicle to use, and then you have to, like you said, decide between taking the write-off of that car or mileage. You can do it either or. Yeah, because
I remember we had this, I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation years ago. You said, well, if you put it in your name, you can't get mileage, and you got to look at it, so ideally, for me, I drive around multiple counties doing real estate, so therefore, the mileage was good for me. And I just want to give a shout out to Earn Your Leisure podcast, because what they did, I didn't know it was that simple to put a car in your business name. I didn't know it's not difficult. No, it's not difficult at all. I thought it was because when you put a property, people tell you, put a property in your LLC, put a property in your LLC, don't put nothing in your name. And they don't explain it, but when you go to the bank and say, hey, I want to buy this property in my LLC, they want tax returns, they want this, they want that, they want, they want to see your books. It's a whole different game. It's a whole different game. It's so I thought it would be just as difficult, but it's extremely simple. That's what I did. So, if you don't watch Earn Your Leisure, you definitely should. The Earn Your Leisure podcast, one of my top podcasts. But, okay, so in Miss Business on Instagram, make sure you follow her. All right, so you get the car in your name. Now, what I did when I bought this last car, I talked to her first to make sure I can get the tax write-off. That was extremely important, but I couldn't get no tax write-off. I wasn't going to do it, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, you wanted to talk to her. So, can we go over, let's say somebody bought a new car, right? We go over let's say, they finance, right? Because I've heard real estate investors say, my accountant told me I have to buy a new car, and the car has to weigh over 6,000 pounds. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So the car has to weigh over 6,000 pounds for the real estate niche.
Not specific to real estate. It's any business.
Oh, any business.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So any business, so over 6,000 pounds. Yep. So they go get Toyota Tundra, big, Toyota car. They buy it. Can you go over buying it cash, financing it, leasing it, like what's the benefits if I go get this big Toyota Tundra?
Yeah, so if you finance it or buy cash, same outcome. So this was something called the Hummer loophole, which was basically they made the $6,000 pound limit or 6,000 pound limit related to, it was supposed to be for kind of working vehicles, for trucks and fleet vehicles, so it wasn't no longer a passenger car. And so then high-end like car manufacturers like Lincoln Navigators, all those started coming out specifically so people could write off these cars. So they made these big old honking SUVs fully loaded so people could buy a $70,000 work vehicle. So what it comes down to is if you lease it, so with any vehicle, you can either write off your actual costs or your mileage. It's an either or thing. So if you go with your actual costs, that means you get to depreciate or write off the vehicle, depending on if it's over that $6,000, we should be able to expense it all in 1 year. Otherwise it's over a few years. So then you get to write off the cost of the vehicle and then like your gas and maintenance costs. So that's that. If you start with actual expense, you're not allowed to switch to mileage later. So you're stuck with it. So if you buy it, write it all off in 1 year, if you think you're going to keep that car for 10 years, it might end up being a lower write-off overall because you kind of took, 60 grand up front and then you've got only a little bit the rest of the years just for gas and insurance. If you go mileage, you don't write off the car at all. Instead, you get 58 cents a mile. So that adds up super quick. If you're an agent, you're driving 30,000 miles a year. In a few years, that can end up being the higher option. And you can switch to actual expense later. So if the car's old and crappy and you're now putting a bunch of money into it, you can now switch over. So what I always tell people is mileage for most people tends to be the better write-off. But have your accountant look at both side by side, because if you're using the vehicle for personal use at all, you have to track your business versus personal miles anyway, so you're already keeping track of that. So you might as well look at the two choices, see what's going to be a better write-off, and think about how long you're going to own the car. If you're someone who trades in every couple of years, going to buy a new car, then writing it off and taking actual expense might be better. So you want to look at both, and with, like, when you hear people saying, buy a car at year end, it's good for your taxes, like, yeah, it's another expense. You get to write off 70 grand, but you still have 70 grand less. So keep that in mind. Like, if what you're thinking of is like you're only doing it for tax purposes, if you don't need a new car, like go buy a house for 70 grand and keep driving what you have. So don't do it only for the tax benefit unless it's like part of your big picture, but just keep that in mind. Like, you're paying less tax because you have less money in your pocket. So it's not really a strategy. It's having less.
All right, so with the $60,000 big Toyota Tundra, let's say somebody leased that, all right, and let's say the payment is $700-800 a month, right? $800 a month. Now they got $800 a month payment. So do they write that whole payment off for the term of the lease? Is that how that works? Okay.
Yeah, on a lease you get to write off your actual lease payments because it's not like a loan where you're paying down part of the vehicle and then also paying an interest expense. It's literally just like a rental fee essentially for your car, just for long term.
Okay. All right, cool. So, of course, regardless of what you do, I think that you should talk to your tax accountant so that you can talk to your tax accountant first. That's what I did, and I don't think that you should make that your own decision for that because you're like me and you don't know anything about this stuff. You might want to, and that's why it's good to just pay somebody and pay them what they're worth so you can have access to them, because what a lot of people don't know. When we're saying doing this in your business, we're talking about for profitable business.
Yeah, it's never a good idea to lose money to not pay taxes. I'll hear people say this on real estate deals too, like, oh, it wasn't a great deal, but I get the tax write-off. Like, don't lose money for a tax write-off. Same thing with the car, any other big purchase. There's different levels of strategy. So again, keep this in mind, kind of the big shiny strategies you'll hear on YouTube or on different podcasts. That might be what's relevant for someone who's 10 years in, making $2 million a year doing real estate. If you've got one rental and you're cash flowing $80 a month, like, sit down, do not buy a new SUV, put your money into another house first, like, get to that point. So don't sort of out strategize your profit level. Just do what's appropriate and put your money back into your business.
All right, so don't out-strategize your profit level. That's a great word of the day. So don't do that. So talk to the accountant first, because I'm with her. I don't think that you should lose money to save money on taxes if you're not really making any money.
Yeah.
It's not a good strategy, to take on marginal deals just for, the tax write-off, just have a plan with it. Now, I have taken on marginal deals to hold if the appreciation play is further and it's in the, it's a great appreciation play, but just to take it for the sake of just losing money on paper, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, so guys, it's extremely important to have a tax professional that you can talk to and answer these questions for your future. So Natalie, if somebody wants to hire you and they have questions about, hey, look, am I profitable enough to buy a car? How do we get in contact with you?
Yeah, the best way would be to find me on the website, just at colotax.com. You can find me on Instagram at Kaladi Tax Boss and on Facebook at Kaladi Tax and Consulting.
There you have it, and I'm going to put out my social media on the screen. Also, check out that blog, realestatedoru.com. If you put your name and email in, you get your free contracts and assignments to start your real estate business and hopefully get it profitable so that you can hire Natalie, talk about tax strategies that work best for you. So as usual, I wish you guys much success in your life and in your business. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.